Well, even if it's not striking, if it's just if it's like that, do you think it's going to be? I mean, you've had to work so hard to get here. Do you think that the final step is going to be over quickly, or do you feel like there's going to be a lot of adversity in this fight?
I'm gonna go all in like always does. So we will see if it's gonna go fast. It's gonna be fast, but if it goes for 5 rounds, I will be ready. I'm fighting there 5 rounds.
Mm-hmm. I have never been more excited and looking forward to an event for the UFC more than UFC 319. And today is the exact reason behind what I already have kind of been feeling, right? I mean, I've been very vocal that, look, man, I don't want to hear shit. I don't want to hear about football right now. I don't want to hear about this. I don't want to hear about that. All I care about right now is Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. That's all I care about right now. This fight, ever since the moment that this got announced, even in anticipation of this fight happening, I was like, this fight is going to be batshit crazy. And today, we got some media stuff going on from Dricus Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev, and I'm going to go through it, recap it, and give my thoughts because both of these guys, they just dropped some dimes out there, man. They dropped some dimes, and I think that we are going to see not only just an incredible fight, right? I mean, the anticipation coming into this is crazy, but both guys, I believe, are going to be at their absolute best. And that's all you can ask coming into a big fight like this. And I mean, obviously, right? I mean, whoa, Jake, you're dropping something on us here. We're going to see these guys at their absolute best. But I really believe that. I think that DDP's confidence is at another level, which we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about everything that Khamzat Chimaev was kind of highlighting because he cleared the air on some things, right? There are a lot of rumors going around about Khamzat, and he's got that calm vibe to him again to where I feel like Khamzat is really hitting his professional stride as a fighter. And then we also had Sean Strickland talking some shit about Khamzat Chimaev, and this was on Red Quarter MMA's YouTube channel. So we'll take a look at a clip there, and I'll react and give my thoughts on that because just how nice is Sean Strickland to give his thoughts and, just what a clown he is on some of the things that he decides to say, especially when it comes to someone like Khamzat Chimaev. So we'll take a look at all that because I just want to mention before we get into this, I want to thank both of these guys, man, because all the excitement that they are bringing into life right now, dude, especially for the UFC, it is because of what these two guys are doing. It's because of what they're doing, the collision course that has led to this. I mean, it just gives me goosebumps every time I talk about this fight, dude, because we know it's going to be crazy. And both of them are talking a little bit of game, letting us into kind of where their heads are at here. And I'm super excited, man. So shout out to both of these guys because without them, we're not getting this badass fight here. And listen, we're going to start with the Khamzat Chimaev ESPN MMA interview because, look, people shit on Brett Okamoto, and other than him going on there and having a bad webcam, right, to where it looks like it's in the worst, possible depth that you could possibly find, Brett Okamoto typically does a pretty decent job. Now, he's asking some kind of, all right, come on, Brett, let's get to the actual questions here. But this was a much better interview to where it was much more highly produced, right? And we got to kind of see a comfortable Khamzat Chimaev to where we really haven't heard a lot from Khamzat, right? We just know that he got into the U.S. It seems like if there were issues of him getting here, that seems to all have been resolved. And now he's been here for a few weeks now, right? He's been training over at the Jackson podcast facility, and he's been training with Sam Calavita, right? Which is kind of the Armin Sarukian hookup here because TJ Dillashaw introduced Armin to Sam Calavita, who's a world-class strength and conditioning coach, coaches a lot of different athletes, wrestling guys, MMA guys, and I believe that is just shows us where Khamzat's head is at coming into this fight. He understands what he has signed up for here. He understands the challenge that Dricus Du Plessis presents. But really what you see, man, is Khamzat, right? Remember the guy that pulled up at UFC 308? He had the glasses on, right? He with the hair. He was super chill. Kind of looks like me a little bit, right? As people are telling me, right? But listen, Khamzat Chimaev has this calm vibe to him, right? And people are like, Khamzat. That's just kind of who the guy is, right? Khamzat understands the fight game. He understands that you got to market yourself. He knows when to grab the microphone, turn up the dials, turn up the banter because the fight is right around the corner. But a lot of what we saw leading up to the Robert Whittaker fight, I feel like this detail is just so important that gets missed. Rob was a inspiration for Khamzat, right? Rob was someone that Khamzat really looked up to, right? So Khamzat had this super respectful, vibe coming into the fight, where I think that we're still going to see some of that here. But DDP is going to turn up the dials, man. He's going to start talking some shit, I'm sure, right? And he's going to try to get under the skin of Chimaev, because we've seen DDP get under everybody's skin. And by the way, I think Dricus is probably the best trash talker in the UFC right now, I'd say. And it's just natural, right? This guy is always dropping some things out there, right? So I expect him to try to shake Khamzat Chimaev and rattle him a little bit. But we got to see Khamzat in this interview, man, right? If people talk about Khamzat Chimaev, right? And I just think that he is a pretty calm guy overall, just knows how to turn up the dials. But here's what we're going to see in this, right? And here's my takeaways from this interview. Khamzat Chimaev is a true MMA professional now, right? And I know that, whoa. He's been a professional fighter in the UFC for a while. What do you mean he's a true professional? We're seeing him take things a lot more serious. We saw this leading into the Robert Whittaker fight, right? When he moved up to 185 pounds, we kind of saw with the Usman fight, but we are truly seeing Khamzat Chimaev as a true professional, right? Not riding around in foreign cars with Darren Till, carrying on like a lunatic, none of that stuff. We're talking about Khamzat Chimaev, who's not really going out and doing a whole lot. He's staying very, kind of hunkered down, preparing. And he's locked the hell in, man. He's locked in, right? And that's obviously because he understands the assignment here. And he's here because he wants to be here, right? Khamzat Chimaev has all this fame, right? He's one of the biggest stars in the UFC, which is crazy for a guy that's never even fought for the title. This is his first title fight opportunity, which it feels like we've been waiting forever for this, which is part of the crazy hype around it. But he's here because he wants to be here. He makes that very clear in this interview. Like, Khamzat's kind of got everything, right? Obviously, he still wants to make more money, take care of the people around him, which he mentioned, which I love that about Khamzat Chimaev, right? And he understands the assignment here. He understands what he is signing up for. Obviously, yes, it's a title fight, but he understands the challenge in front of him. He knows that Dricus Du Plessis is a tank. He knows that he's a big guy for the weight class. He's someone that is continuously improving from fight to fight. There was once all these question marks about Dricus, to where now those questions are almost gone, right? We know what DDP is going to bring to the table. Chaos, a relentless pursuit, a well-rounded, chaotic skill set that is very hard for guys to deal with. That's the reality, right? He's coming off of a masterclass performance against Sean Strickland in the rematch back at UFC 312. These are my takeaways from this, right? And we're going to break down everything now, but this is what I'm telling you from reading into the interview of Khamzat Chimaev. We are seeing that he is really hitting his stride as a professional fighter here. He's got it figured out, man. The camp around him, the people around him. He's here because he wants to be here, right? We heard all these conversations about, is he going to stick around? He's going to stick around. This guy is clearly here because he's motivated and has those things that he's going after, right? And he understands what he's signing up for here with Dricus Du Plessis. So the first things first, the game plan, right? I know a lot of people out there, right, they're worried about, well, what's Khamzat Chimaev going to do in this fight, right? He's got 25 minutes here with this tank and Dricus Du Plessis, who has shown that not only is he durable, not only is he incredibly well-rounded, but he himself is really hitting his stride as a fighter and seems to continuously improve from fight to fight, which is one of the things that I love about Dricus so much is he's down to fight anybody, and he's always showing some sort of evolution in his game. But I feel like a lot of people were wondering, okay, well, yeah, you went out there, you ran over Robert Whittaker, you got the face crank submission, and okay, now what? So you're going to go out there and do that to Dricus Du Plessis? Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to try to do to Dricus Du Plessis. I almost said Dricus Du Plessis, but listen, Khamzat Chimaev says he's ready to go 5 rounds with DDP. I'm going to go all in, like always. We will see. If it's going to go fast, it's going to be fast. But if it goes 5 rounds, I'll be ready, brother. And that's the reality. Listen, Khamzat Chimaev, if he gets away from who he is, he will not beat Dricus Du Plessis. He won't beat him. Right, Khamzat Chimaev is a very technical overall fighter, but what is he known for? He's known for this, onslaught tornado early in the fight where he gets in your face, doesn't allow you to get a feel for the fight, right? It's like when Conor McGregor was in the prime of his career, right? He came out, got in your face right away, didn't allow you to get your feet under you and get a feel for the fight. That's what Chimaev does. Gets in your face. It's like the grappling version, right? Gets in your face, causes mayhem right away and causes you to almost panic, and then he capitalizes on the opportunity because he is such a specialist in a particular area. He's an elite level wrestler smashed together with incredible submission skills, which is a nightmare to deal with. Right, but what makes Khamzat is going out there and being himself. Not being like, well, I don't know, man. This is a 5-round fight. The title's on the line. I'm going to question myself and I'm going to go out there and try to jab, leg kick, stick and move. Like, that is not what makes Khamzat Khamzat. Could he go out there and do that? I'm sure he could. But that's not how he's going to beat Dricus Du Plessis, right? Maybe a more tactical approach, right? If you do get into positions, don't rush things, which is what I think we're going to see. We saw that against Robert Whittaker, where people act like he, blows his, gas tank so quickly. And it's like, yeah, he uses a lot of energy to shoot that initial takedown, which nobody has had the answer to. But then when he gets to these positions, he's taking his time, right? We saw him rush against Kevin Holland, right? But he was taking his time against Robert Whittaker. And I feel like that's the evolution in the professionalism that we're seeing from Khamzat. He's going to go all in, man. He's going to do his thing, right? We've seen guys like Diego Lopez is a perfect example. What made Diego? What goes out there, gets in people's faces, pressures them up against the fence, and lands those big shots. What did he do against Volkanovski? The polar opposite. He's like, well, it's 25 minutes. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to, sit on the outside and strike with one of the greatest strikers in UFC history in Volkanovski. How'd that work out, right? I know he was able to drop him at one point, but if you get away from who you are, I understand it's a title fight, but if you get away from who you are, that is a recipe for a disaster. It's a recipe for a disaster. Khamzat knows that. He knows what makes him special. Don't stop these guys out there, whoa. And I mean, Khamzat's team, I'm sure they've recognized this. They're preparing for the aspect of we're going to go out there, do what we do, but in the event that Dricus Du Plessis does have the ground skills to be able to keep up and to be able to stop what we are going to do, well, then we will be prepared to stand in there and do what we have to do. But the game plan is clear, man. It's going to be Khamzat does what Khamzat does. That's going to be the reality, right? Be calculated, be smart, shoot that initial takedown. Nobody's been able to stop it, and believe in our skill set here. Don't go out there and doubt yourself. Don't go out there and doubt yourself. Khamzat will be Khamzat. That's what you're going to see. He's going to start fast. He's going to look to get into these positions, but he's going to look to take his time. That's what I think we're going to see. But he's also training with Sam Calavita. He understands that if he doesn't get that quick finish, he will be ready for the 25 minutes. So this game plan talk of Chimaev, he's going to get away from who he is, and I don't think we see that. And if he does it, I think he's setting himself up for disappointment. Right? Now, it's not to say that he can't go out there, strategically fight, jab, move, box, do those kinds of things. I think he's capable of that. But what makes Khamzat special and separates him from everyone else is that initial onslaught, getting to his skill set right away because he has an advantage there. Combining his advantage with not allowing you to get a feel for the fight, that's what he does best, imposing his will. And he's going to have to go in there and show Dricus, because Dricus, I think he's going to come in very confident here. And I think that he believes that he can truly grapple with Chimaev. So it's going to be on Khamzat to go out there and be you, and don't let Dricus deter you, right? So we're going to see. Right? Because the ground war, this is what we might see, man. Khamzat Chimaev on DDP's ground game. Other UFC fighters usually strike. They take him down. I'm one of the best wrestlers in MMA. How is it not possible to take this guy down? And that's the reality, right? We've seen guys like Robert Whittaker take Dricus down. We saw Derek Brunson, who, he's more of a grappler, right? He's got a very good wrestling base, but Derek Brunson's not a danger, right? His ground and pound's decent, not really a submission threat. It's pretty much, he just wrestles, win on control time, controls you, and then wins, and then is able to get the victory. That's what Derek Brunson does, right? We saw Darren Till put Dricus Du Plessis in some bad positions, right? Not for a while, right? Dricus was able to, take over, dominate the fight. But we did see Till put him in some positions. Robert Whittaker, we know he's a well-rounded fighter, but he's known for his striking, right? He's not known for going out there and just dominating people with his grappling. Khamzat Chimaev is a specialist at what he does, right? So when you see, these guys doing that, that's where this confidence is coming from for Chimaev. He's like, if Rob took him down, this is very salam alaikum, right? And that's why I said that line, because he's like, if Rob is taking him down and putting him on his back, what's going to happen when I do it? Which is the correct way for Khamzat Chimaev to think. But Dricus is going to be prepared, man. And he's going to be prepared. He understands. He's even said, Chimaev's going to come out. Is he going to take me down? Absolutely, right? That's what Dricus is saying. He knows what he's signing up for. He knows what this is. And Dricus, I think the difference is DDP is not going to shy away from that challenge, where other guys are so reactive to I can't get taken down. I can't get taken down. I think Dricus is going to be like, okay, I'm going to get taken down. We're going to scramble, and I'm going to look to advanced positions. I'm going to look to defend the leg ride, and I'm going to look to get to my skills. I'm going to look to get back to the feet, and I'm going to try to bust you up. That's what DDP is coming in to do, man. That's what he's coming in to do here. So it's going to be on Chimaev to show him, because I think DDP has a ton of confidence in his grappling skills. And I truly think that he knows Khamzat is special, but I think DDP believes he can hang with him on the ground. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes down, man. Can Khamzat go out there, bulldoze him over like I think he can with the grappling? Or does Dricus and his team, do they have the answers for this? Do they have the answers for this? Because it's one thing to drill all these different positions and feel like you know, and then you get in there with someone like Khamzat Chimaev, right? Remember like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and I know that this is obviously different, but you drill all these positions to prepare for Khabib, and then you get in there and you get grabbed up by him, you get taken down, and you're like, man, this shit's different. The pressure, the pace, the squeeze, the athletic ability, and Chimaev is just a crazy athlete, man, and the speed at which he operates, and you make any mistakes, he's just going to take advantage of you. His technique is spectacular. So it's going to be very interesting to see the ground war we might see, because if DDP could defend and stop the takedowns and scramble and stay safe, man, is this thing going to get very interesting. It's going to get interesting. So let's see kind of how that plays out. But Caio Borralho is an absolute buffoon, right? Caio Borralho, this is a guy that's been out there, posting things that are untrue, fake news alert at left and right with Caio Borralho. He was the one that was out there saying, I've heard rumors that Khamzat Chimaev, he might retire, whatever the hell he was saying, right? And then Khamzat shut down this rumor of him potentially retiring after winning the title. I need money, bro. This is not enough just to go for one title, right? Khamzat Chimaev, I'm sure the UFC is taking care of him very much financially. He's one of the biggest stars in the sport without question. But Khamzat Chimaev is, 31 years of age? I mean, this guy has so much fight left in him. Now, do I think he's going to be around till he's 40? No, right? Especially with his fighting style, right? A grappling heavy, super, athletic, all those kinds of things. I think we got Khamzat for a few more years for sure. But, to go out there and spread rumors that the guy's going to retire, I mean, that's just who Caio Borralho is. Does anything for attention, does anything to get his name in the limelight. So it was good to hear from Khamzat directly, not that we really needed to, because anyone with a brain would have known that Caio Borralho is an idiot just trying to spread some shit, right? He's like, I'm the backup for UFC 319, and he was trying to get into that backup position. Remember at International Fight Week when we thought it might be DDP versus Khamzat, and then Caio was trying to throw his name into the hat? I mean, so we didn't need to really hear this from Chimaev, but it was still good to hear from him. Like, I need money, bro. Like, this dude, he's got goals, man. You think he's just going to win the title and walk away? Like, I never believed that. I never believed that. Caio Borralho, absolute buffoon. Hopefully, Nasruddin Imavov knocks his ass out at UFC Paris. Okay. And then Khamzat Chimaev giving his kind of plans, man. Moving forward, he wants to be a 3-weight world champion, right? Remember when Khamzat was at welterweight and we were like, man, this guy could win the welterweight title. He could go out there, win the middleweight title. He could go out there, win all these different titles, man. And like Khamzat, when he bursted onto the scene, we're like, this dude's going to win like 4 belts. Like, do you remember that? Like, that's how it felt with Khamzat Chimaev, man. And yeah, maybe it feels a little bit like that, but not like it did when he first bursted onto the scene. But if he goes out there and runs through DDP, hey, man, those conversations are going to come back. They are. But my new coach said, give me a couple of months. We're going to make it to welterweight. This Australian guy, JDM, would be a good one for me. Go down, fight him, take the belt there, and I can fight the winner of Ankalaev versus Pereira as well. Listen, man, you talk about some excitement if Khamzat Chimaev wins the title, right? Dean Thomas out there, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. Listen, whatever your concerns are, if Khamzat is inactive, that is probably has to do with the UFC. The UFC is, I know Khamzat's a big name, but if he wins the title, they're going to look for this guy to fight probably twice a year, right? That's kind of the schedule that they have someone like Islam Makhachev on, right? I think that's the schedule that they're going to try to get Ely on. They're going to want him fighting twice a year. That's what they're going to look to do, right? And the UFC books the events, right? So if there is issues with certain things like people are talking about, the UFC chooses where the events are going to be, dog. Right? So it's not going to be a problem like a lot of people think it is. And to see him, working with Sam Calavita, he's got a nutritionist now. If he could drop down the welterweight and, I mean, dude, could you imagine? I don't know if they would do it, right? But Islam Makhachev, if he won the belt and you had Khamzat versus Islam, how crazy of a fight would that be? And I know that Khamzat and Ilya, they've trained together before, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like all these super fights that could possibly loom of him going down to 170. Now, I don't know how realistic that is, right? Because we knew that he was a big guy getting to 170 before, and I don't know if the UFC is going to entertain that after what happened back at UFC 279 when he was supposed to fight Diaz. But it's still intriguing, right? So how realistic is it for him to go to welterweight? I don't know how realistic. But him going up to 205, I absolutely can see that happening. Especially if Alex Pereira is able to beat Magomed Ankalaev. Right? I don't really see a scenario to where we see Khamzat versus Magomed Ankalaev. I just don't know that that's a route the UFC looks to go. right? And I think that those guys know each other and whatever. But at the end of the day, like if Pineda, right, because him and Chimaev, they've jawed back and forth before, how crazy of a fight would that be, right? And I know that Pineda, there's rumors maybe he'll go up to heavyweight at some point, right? If he could get his belt back. There's a lot of ifs there. But Chimaev moving up to win a second title at 205, like, dude, sign me up, dude. But one step at a time. It's cool to hear when you hear a fighter, everyone's like, oh, this guy, we don't know if he's going to be around long. And then he comes out here and is like, I'm looking for 3 division status, dog. I want to win 3 belts. Sign me up, man. I'm ready to see whatever it is, because him at welterweight, a lot of fun matchups. Don't know how realistic it is, right? Khamzat is looking a lot bigger these days, but hey, if his coaches are feeling confident, got a new strength and conditioning program, new nutritionist, they got it dialed in, anything I feel is possible. And I feel like the light heavyweight thing is more realistic. But first and foremost, got to be DDP. And if he does, I'd like to see him defend the title a few times in the weight classes, because we're seeing too many guys, man. They win the title and then they're so quick to run at, to a different division. I don't mean like run like they're avoiding, but try to win that second belt. And I get the excitement, but we also want to see you against some of those contenders and see you defend your title before you start moving on and doing some other things. But let's talk about Dricus Du Plessis, man, because I think DDP, he's someone that I've always said I like DDP, man. I like the way that this guy carries himself. I like what he brings to the table, his confidence, and he represents the UFC incredibly well, right? He threw out the first pitch, at the Cubs game the other day, and look, he does not want to move up to the light heavyweight division until he clears out his division. The division needs to be cleaned out. The middleweight division is looking very exciting at the moment. He's exactly right. The UFC middleweight division right now is one of the best divisions in the sport, without question. It's one of the best divisions in the sport right now. Not just that, but the potential matchups lying ahead for DDP if he's able to get through Khamzat, like a Nasruddin Imavov, a Caio Borralho, some of these names. I mean, we're talking about DDP becoming the greatest middleweight of all time if he can get through these guys. If he could beat Khamzat, if he could beat Nasruddin Imavov, beat Caio Borralho, some of these names, these dangerous, guys on the rise, I mean, He will 100% be the greatest middleweight of all time if he can do that stuff. In a couple more wins in this division, he could be the GOAT middleweight. I believe that. So there's a lot in terms of legacy on the line for DDP here. And hearing a guy that's not so quick to be like, yeah, well, I've defended a few times, I'm just going to go up to the next weight class. Right? That's very respectable, especially amongst the fans, man. We respect that kind of stuff. Of course, it's exciting if DDP's up there. Hey, I want to move up and fight, Ankalaev or whatever. And maybe that's, him sitting there and he's like, okay, let me focus on the middleweight division. Ankalaev stylistically, who knows if any of that is going into it. But I believe Dricus Du Plessis truly believes he can beat anybody in the world. Right? And he has good reason to think that because of what he's been doing, all the doubt, all that he's overcame since coming into the UFC. And then to hear him say that he walks around at 225 to 230 outside of camp is absolutely nuts. I'm not surprised, though. Right? We know Paulo Costa was one of the bigger middleweights. He's a guy that's, said that he's been up around that range. At least he used to be, right back when he was fighting Yoel Romero, to where he was quite a bit, thick dog. You know what I mean? Back then where Costa looked a little bit more bulkier to where he's a little more leaned out now. DDP's a tank. Like, to hear that he's, 225, 230 outside of camp doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. And then, cutting down to 185, come in fight night, what is he, 210 in there, 215? So he's a big middleweight, man. And I think that he's a guy that would transition pretty well to the light heavyweight division. Considering his frame, his strength, his size, that he's a big dude, man. I'm not surprised by this whatsoever. But hearing that he wants to hang around in the middleweight division, if he could get through a guy like Chimaev and continue to defend his belt and fight these dangerous contenders, he will, without question, if he can rattle off these wins, he would be the greatest middleweight of all time. I have no question about that. He would be my middleweight GOAT. If he goes out there, beats Chimaev, beats Imavov, beats a couple more of these, GOAT, man. GOAT. His resume is already better than someone like Israel Adesanya, right? Beat Strickland twice, beat Robert Whittaker. Right? I mean, so he's really rattling him off, man. DDP, ton of respect for this guy, representing the UFC very well. And a couple things he said on Ariel's show. He wanted to fight Khamzat Chimaev in Abu Dhabi, in his neck of the woods, like I've been doing with so many other opponents. I've grown quite fond of that. They said they want to do Chicago. I thought, well, that's a great place. I haven't seen. It really makes no difference where the fight is, to be honest. DDP wanted to fight Khamzat in his backyard, man. Like that's the kind of guy that Dricus is, and that's why people like him. That's why people are clinging on to the DDP train, man. Because this is a guy that truly, when we talk about fighters that say, I'll fight whoever, anytime, any place, anywhere, that slogan, That is a guy like Dricus Du Plessis. That was Israel Adesanya as the middleweight champion, right? That was Volkanovski. Well, I mean, he's the champion again, but that's those kinds of guys. Guys that want to sign up and fight the hardest challenge, right? He didn't want to fight Strickland in the rematch. Right away, at least, right? Everyone was talking about Khamzat because of what Khamzat did to Whitaker. And DDP's like, sign me up. That's the guy I want to fight. Right? And we see a lot of champions, they don't want to do that. They want to kind of pick and choose. Well, stylistically, I'm a grappler. This guy's a striker. Give me the striker. DDP's like, I don't care. Give me the hardest guy, the hardest challenge you got. I want to beat that guy. Because he's chasing legacy, right? And then 2 years ago, before the nose surgery, did you think anybody would have ever said after the first round, I have a chance? It was literally the opposite. It was after round 1, Dricus is done. Now it's almost, I'm getting praised for my championship round performances. There's 2 things you could take away from that. People just change their opinions the whole time. And then, of course, it shows that I'm ever evolving. There was a problem. We fixed that. And now that the problem has become my strength. You couldn't put it any better, man. Like, don't you remember when Dricus came into the UFC and it's like you're watching this guy fight. He's diving all over the place, throwing these wild, looks like Superman charging forward, throwing these punches, way out of position, over swinging, ooga booga slingshots. And it just looked like a disaster, tripping over his own feet. And we still see this, from time to time, even though things have, I'd say, tightened up a little bit more. But this is exactly true, right? He got the nose surgery and, people laugh at this. They're like, that can't make that much of a difference. It absolutely does. If you have a cold, if you're sick, can't breathe out of your nose and you go try to do intense working out, let me know how that goes, right? It sucks. You feel like you can't breathe very well. You feel like you can't catch your breath the same. So fixing your nose is absolutely going to help. And we've clearly seen that Dricus has made some adjustments, man. Like this guy at one point, it was like early on, things look good. And then he starts to gas, he slows down, the body language looks bad. To where now it's like, oh, well, if you get into the later rounds with DDP, look at the narrative for this fight. If Dricus survives the early onslaught of Chimaev and we get into those middle to late rounds, what's going to happen? That's where DDP is going to take over, right? So the narrative shift when it comes to Dricus Du Plessis and his style, it actually is kind of crazy the more now that he mentions it. Right? Going out there masterclassing a guy like Strickland, who's known for being a hard guy to deal with for 25 minutes. Doesn't get tired, constantly moves forward. Dricus is now that guy, man. He is now that guy. So it's very impressive to see the adjustments that he has made. And then here's him talking about Khamzat. I think Khamzat is worthy of all the praise and everything that he receives. Khamzat is special. The first time I saw him, I knew this guy was going to be special. I think he's as good as people think. I just think I'm a lot better than people think. And that's been the tagline for Dricus, man, throughout his entire UFC career is he's kind of always had that underdog mentality because coming into the Strickland rematch, we all felt like he was going to win that fight. I was confident we would beat Strickland the first time. He went out there, beat Adesanya, which stylistically, Adesanya, yeah, he's a good striker, but DDP is just kind of a nightmare for Izzy because Izzy relies on fighting guys that got a rhythm, patterns to read, where DDP, there's no patterns. Right, and that's why I picked Dricus to win his past 3 fights, right? His confidence, his improvements, and him recognizing what Khamzat brings to the table. I mean, he knows what he's signing up for here. He knows what he's signing up for here. Khamzat knows what he's signing up for here. Both of these guys respect the skills that are brought to the table. That's why Khamzat has made the necessary adjustments that he has made with his camp, I believe. And that is why DDP, I'm sure, has made some adjustments as well. These guys understand what this is going to be. This is the most hyped up fight of the year. This is a massive fight. I think this is definitely the biggest middleweight fight of all time. And the way that this event is trending, it's a massive spotlight for these guys. And if Chimaev could go out there, beat DDP and win the title, what that means for him. And then if DDP can take out a huge name like Khamzat and kind of add that to his resume and build DDP's legacy and star power, this is just a massive fight with so much more on the line, man. And I feel like DDP, we're going to see the best version of these guys, which is what makes this fight so exciting. Now, last but not least, we're going to get to the clip of Sean Strickland on Red Quarter MMA giving his thoughts on Khamzat. Now, I think that this is older footage, but they posted this because obviously this fight's coming up. So let's hear what Strickland has to say, and then I will go ahead and react.
Here when he retired from COVID. I was training with him. Like, he's just a fucking cunt. It's like, if you knew, I always say there's guys, if you knew on a personal level you wouldn't like. Chimaev is one of those people, if you knew you wouldn't like. He'll come in here. There's a video of me, I always like, oh, you're so good. Like, I'm being sarcastic. Like, bro, like, you go and you fucking starch this 1-1 guy when there's like, admin there's like high-level UFC fighters, and you're picking the one-and-one fighter because like you think he's the same height as your opponent. No, you're picking him because you're a bitch, dude. Like, it's just, yeah, he's just like, no, he could fight, but like mentally, he's just a weak man. You know, he's just a weak man.
Sean Strickland calling Khamzat Chimaev a weak man is just, I don't even understand, man, how you can sit there when influencers who have zero fight experience, guys that come in to spar you, have probably never trained before, never even thrown a punch in their life, and you show them zero mercy when sparring. You go harder on those guys than you do in the actual octagon. To do your actual job, to show up and entertain. We're going to go to war. I'm going to bleed for you guys, man. And then he goes out there and jabs and teeps for 25 minutes, fails to open up, gets a gifted rematch against Dricus Du Plessis the second time, goes out there and makes zero adjustments and fights worse than he did the first time, which the first fight was close, but he didn't even go out there and try to do this. Like, he literally fought so timid and scared of Dricus Du Plessis in that fight, which credit, a lot of that is because of the evolution that we're seeing of Dricus. But how can Sean Strickland criticize anyone else when it comes to this kind of stuff? Right? And obviously, he's giving his opinion on Khamzat Chimaev. I've never trained with Khamzat. I've never been around Khamzat in the gym. We hear that he trains hard. He likes to, the intensity. How can Sean Strickland say these kinds of things when this guy literally is online every other week, it seems, beating up on influencers with zero experience, guys that are half his size, a quarter of his size, to where he is literally showing them no mercy, beating the shit out of them when he goes in an octagon and fights an actual professional and it seems like he doesn't even try to win some of these fights, just jabs and teeps and tries to coast to a boring-ass decision. So to hear him come down and ripping on Khamzat Chimaev here, just like, first of all, go look in the mirror, Sean Strickland. Look in the mirror. When you talk about a weak man, I mean, Sean Strickland just seems like a guy that's struggling with himself internally to me. That's why I see a lot of the stuff that this guy says. I know he talks wild, right? That's just kind of Sean Strickland's personality, to be unfiltered, say a bunch of stuff, draw out reactions, get his name in the headlines, because the more he talks, the more that builds his relevancy and gets people actually excited to see Sean Strickland fight, because outside of that, seeing him fight is not entertaining. So it's all built around talking shit. And what this all boils down to for me is Sean Strickland being jealous of Khamzat. Khamzat is a massive star. He's going out there fighting for the title here. And yes, Strickland's fought for the title, but Sean talked all that shit about Khamzat Chimaev. And then all leading up to the DDP fight, to go out there and what looked like he didn't even try to beat Dricus, because he's like, oh, if I win, maybe I wasn't going to beat Dricus anyway, but maybe he was worried about winning that damn fight because he's like, I don't want to have to fight Chimaev for all the things that I've been talking. Right? And from what we've heard in the gym, Khamzat Chimaev was punking this dude. He was taking him down, beating him up on the ground. This just sounds like a guy who got beaten up by Khamzat Chimaev, is just jealous and just talking some shit. Again, I don't know. I wasn't there, but sitting from the outside, for Sean Strickland to say these kinds of things when literally every other week he's online beating up untrained people, he's showing up to corner people, running across, the octagon, throwing punches or whatever he's doing at, amateur fighters or whatever. I mean, who is this guy to talk, man? Who is this guy to talk? That's always what it comes down to for Sean Strickland at this point. But either way, man, I am super excited for UFC 319. Khamzat versus DDP, one of the most anticipated fights of the year. And for me, I have never been this excited for a fight. And if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor, please give it a like, comment your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And thanks to listening to me yap, man, about the stuff I love.